It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relatable and relevant conversations with contractors. Hopefully bringing a little bit of entertainment to you as well. My name's Mike. That's Brian.
Hello.
Today we are episode 49. Our in-studio guest, rare and in-studio, Jim Andrews, President of American Restore. How you doing, Jim?
Doing great. Good morning.
Good,
Hey,
good.
Jim.
Good to see you. Good to have you in studio today.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. So give us a little rundown, kind of how you got started in this industry and the journey to where you are now.
I don't know if we got that kind of time, but
We got all day.
I started when I was about 10 or 11 years old, working for a good friend of my father's, actually a neighbor who had 3 daughters. He didn't have a son. And so I became his sort of surrogate son, and he owned a big concrete ready-mix company. So I spent summers working in this ready-mix company. So I learned about concrete from a wide variety of his employees. And I also learned how to work on diesel engines because he had a bunch of trucks. And so I was a
At 10 or 11 years old, you're working
Yeah, I
on
was
diesel
10,
engines?
11, 12 years old. What I didn't know was he was having me trained on the diesel engines because he wanted me to go work on his yacht.
Is that a bad gig?
Because
A
I
little
was
bit better than pouring concrete?
Yeah, so I quickly became his first mate on his boat, and we spent a lot of time fishing. And I went to Cabo,
Still a
13,
great gig.
14 years old,
Yeah.
and spent quite a bit of time in Cabo with him fishing. And so I came home. I was in school, obviously, and I had another friend who I rode motorcycles with. He was a high school friend. We actually raced motorcycles together. His father was a big builder. So there was an acquaintance of the family's, a guy that became super influential in my life, and he decided he had a boat and he wanted to go to Cabo. And so he asked me to, help him rig this boat, and which was super fun. We went to all these marine hardware stores, and I got to spend other people's money.
Everybody else's money?
Yeah.
Fun.
When you're outfitting a boat, and we had to go buy like single sideband and emergency life vests and extra generators and water makers, and I know we spent $150,000 in about 2 hours one day.
That's fun.
Anyway, so this guy, he owned a big construction products company. And how I met him was I got my real estate license when I was 18 years old. So I was selling real estate in the community I lived in. And I met this guy because I sold a condo that he owned. And when we met, we became friends. So I ended up selling him a house.
When you were 18?
When I was 18, 19 years old, yeah. And it was interesting. After I did a couple deals with him, he was gonna pay me on one of the deals with a Turbo Carrera, Porsche.
Yeah.
And I got 2 speeding tickets in one day. And my dad's like, take the money, kid, you don't belong in that
Sell
car. Yeah. So, but anyway, he became a pretty influential guy in my life. And when we came home from one of these multiple Cabo trips, he had found out that some of his salespeople were not totally honest, so he fired them all. And he called me out of the blue, and I was selling real estate. I was doing pretty good. I was cocky. I had money in the bank. I was driving around a Porsche, and I was the only guy selling expensive houses that didn't have a Mercedes or a Cadillac. I was driving around a 2-seat car. Everybody's like, "How do you sell real estate in this little car?" I said, "I just tell people to follow me."
Yeah.
But anyway, he called me out of the blue, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come work for me?" And I said, "I don't know anything about what you do." He says, "Yeah, but you understand concrete, and you're pretty mechanical, and my customers love you." Because when I was in Mexico on his boat, I took a lot of his big customers fishing. I got them their first marlin and stuff like that. So I got to know these guys. And so what these guys were all the owners of these big waterproofing, roofing, and construction companies. So long story short, when I got home from one of those trips, he called me and offered me a job. And he said, "Listen, you don't need to really know anything. You just, these guys you just go entertain them, take them whatever they need, samples and literature and pricing. And so I learned, I got to know these guys, and I learned how to hunt business with these guys. I became part of their upfront network and also the process of chasing work. And then when they got the jobs, we were, selling them material and stuff like that. So anyway, I did that for, I don't know, a year or so. And I got to know all of his customers. Well, I got bored. And so I walked into his office one day and said, listen, I'm bored. You got to figure out a way to incentivize me. He was paying me a salary. So he handed me like the keys to a new car, a bunch of credit cards, and basically his customer list, and just turned me loose. And I did a pretty good job. So I got bored, and I said, you got to incentivize me. So he wrote down a list of customers that we didn't have. These were customers of his competitors. And he says, I'll pay you a commission on these guys, a little extra. And so within about, I don't know, a couple months, I had like more than half the guys on the list buying from us. And so I walked into his office one Friday afternoon, and I said, hey, you owe me, and I kept track of everything. I knew who was calling, I knew who was buying, I kept a scratch, this was before computers.
Yeah, no Excel spreadsheet, huh?
No Excel spreadsheet. So I walked into his office one day, and I said, hey, you owe me this, but can you give me this? And he's like, what are you talking about? Well, don't you remember the deal? And he goes, I never agreed to that. So I reached into my pocket, and I took the keys to the car and the building and the credit cards, and I threw them at him, and he hit his chest and fell in his lap. And I said, I quit. And I walked home.
So he never paid you commission on all those?
He never paid me. So anyway,
peace.
I got home, and my wife at the time, which was she was pregnant, I think, or I had a little baby, my first child, which was 35 years ago. I said, what are you doing here, or you're late. I said, well, I walked home. Well, why'd you walk home? Well, I quit.
I don't have a car anymore.
Yeah. So anyway, ironically, the next morning, the guy I was working for called me, and he said, hey, I want to come talk to you. And so interestingly, that I quit at about 2:00 on a Friday, and the customers that called in between 2:00 and the time the office closed, the girls told them Jim quit, because I was the only salesman at the time. So the girls were like, hey, Jim quit. He quit today. I mean, it was it was a scene in the office. So Friday night and Saturday morning, I was getting phone calls at home. This was before this was before cell phones.
Right.
And I didn't realize I had any value. I didn't really associate my worth as that much at that stage of my life. I mean, I was super young. Anyway, I had these guys calling me and go, hey, I heard you quit, come talk to me. And, so anyhow, this fella that I was working for shows up at my house. And I lived on the water. I lived in a little 1-bedroom condo, and he had this big, beautiful home on the water, but we lived in the same community where it was all waterfront. And he goes, let me come pick you up in my boat.
This is the dude that you threw the keys at.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Who by the way, and we'll get to that, but we are super tight today. And we're the whole time. I mean, it was a bumpy
just
relationship.
One of those, you're young and
You hit a blip.
So he comes over. He has a bottle of wine, a couple good cigars. We drive around. He says, "Hey, man, I made a mistake, and you're right, and I want to make it right. I want you to stay." And I said, "Okay, I'll." He goes, "Come to the office Monday, And anyway, so long story short, I had several phone calls, but 3 of them were real interesting phone calls I had. So I said, and I was honest with the guy. I was totally honest and transparent. I said, listen, man, so-and-so called and so-and-so called. He goes, like that son of a bitch, I said, but I got to play this out, man. I want to go talk to these people. He says, well, don't make a decision until you talk to me. I said, all right. So ironically, I went and talked to one company and met with the big company, and Of course, they made me a real juicy offer. It was real appealing, but it was big, and I was young, and just the intimidation of this big office and all these people and all this equipment was really intimidating. I had a little anxiety. But there was this other company that had called, and I went and met with them, and they were in Inglewood, and it was just a ratty little business. But when I walked in, the guy that called me was a partner. He was like a junior partner, and the main guy didn't know. But when I walked in and I started talking, the main guy heard me talking, so he came into the office or the conference room, and he said, "Are you Jim Andrews?" And I goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I've heard about you." He said, "Have you had breakfast yet?" I said, "No." He says, "Let's go have breakfast." And so a couple of the guys got up to walk across. We were going to walk over to this bowling alley and have breakfast. He says, "No, I want to be alone with him." And so we walked over to this bowling alley in Inglewood, and we had breakfast. And in 30 minutes, I'd negotiated a deal where I would have a piece of the company and eventually own the whole company. And it was all in a handshake. And he literally laid out these milestones. He says, "If you can do this, I'll do that. If you can do this, I'll do that." And we shook hands. And within a year, we bought out one of the partners, and within 2 years, we bought out another partner, and 5 years later, I owned the whole company.
Jeez.
And so that was how I basically told him, "Listen, I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking for a career."
Right.
Yeah. And he was a huge influence on my life, and towards the end of our relationship, it was a little rocky because I became the sort of the heir apparent and the leader, and he had a son in the business who was a drinker and a gambler, and he was a good guy, but and so at one point I left. I started another company with another guy, and I didn't tell anybody. And so I finally told Bill. I said, "Bill, listen, I'm going to leave. You can have my share of the business." Because at that point we were 50-50 partners, and I said, "You can do what you want with your son." And so I left, and within a week, all the guys had figured out I was gone, and so his son called me and said, "Listen, you got to come back here. Everybody's freaking out. And my dad's freaking out." And he goes, "What's it going to take for you to come back?" I said, "You got to leave." And so I went back, and he left, and the rest is sort of history. So I wasn't educated in any real format. My education came from the streets.
Yeah.
And I learned real young in this business, we're a very technical company, so I aligned myself with chemists and engineers and people that were subject matter experts in certain things that we did. I'm super ADD. I can't focus on one thing very long. So we do a multitude of very unique things. And I've developed products. I have patents. I've got relationships with different companies. I'm a part of an association. I formed an association about 5 years ago. There's like 12 or 14 of us now all over the country. That is a really tight association of guys just like me. We're highly specialized contractors. It's called North American Construction Technologies. My wife and I are actually majority shareholders, and we have national agreements with huge companies. And each contractor has a role they play to support this network and these clients. And in that organization, we have like the main chemist from Sherwin-Williams, who's retired, is on our board. He's in fact the chairman of the board of the company now. And we have some other highly skilled, highly technical people that are a member of that organization. So it's essentially a network of contractors that support certain disciplines for certain clients. And we just signed a huge deal with, I can't tell you who it is, but let's just say it's a huge company owned by one of the wealthiest men in the world, and we're their go-to guys for concrete-related issues and floors and stuff. So that's pretty exciting. But one of the other things that we do that you probably saw if you did any research is our company is the leader in the entire country in heavy duty flooring. So it's ironic. About 38 years ago, I got a call from a guy, and he said, "Hey, we've got this transfer station that we need to have the floors repaired, and the owner wants to meet you." And I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Well, you're in Huntington Beach, and this facility's in Huntington Beach." And so I said, "All right." So he says, be there, meet me here at 9:00 tomorrow morning. So I said, "All right." So long story short, the owner of this company, this garbage company, was talking to all these suppliers and all these consultants and all these people, and he was just overwhelmed with propaganda and promises and all these ideas, right? And so he said, there was a bunch of people in the meeting, and then everybody left, and it was just him and me. And I said, "Listen, what do you want to do? Why am I here?" He says, "Listen, man," and he's got all these brochures and things on his desk.
Information overload.
He says, "I got all this shit. I don't know who to trust. I don't believe any of these assholes." And he goes, "Here's what I want to do." And he goes, "I want to do a test, and I want to put down all these materials in my facility." And he goes, "And I want you to do it." And he goes, "And I want to learn, and we're going to learn together." He goes, "I'm going to pay you." He says, I'm not asking for a freebie. He says, "I'm going to pay you." He says, "But I believe in the end, it'll be good for me and it'll be good for you." And so I agreed to do this test, and we installed 8 different systems in this transfer station. I don't know if you guys know what a transfer station is.
No, not at all.
All right, so all the garbage that gets picked up at your house or this business goes to a facility, and it's either transferred it goes from a small truck to a big truck, and then goes to a landfill, or it's recycled. So they'll pull out the paper, everything on this table, like those aluminum cans are worth money, that cup's worth money, all this paper's worth money. So anyhow, long story short, we did this test, and I had no idea what an impact this was going to have on my life. So within about 6 months, and now this guy, his name's Jim Brownell, and him and Stanley Teisneck owned this company, Rambo Disposal. And couple things. First of all, you hear that the garbage industry is, if you've ever watched The Sopranos, it's kind of, it's not. It's a very, very polished, very professional business. And so the other thing is these guys are all friends. They're all, like you guys are in your world, you know who your competitors are.
Right.
And well, so do these guys. So there's a huge transparent collaboration. Not when they don't do anything that's collusive, but when it's like, "Hey, what kind of tractor do you guys like?" or "What kind of truck?" or "Who are you buying oil filters from?" They collaborate on that stuff. And so what happened was, as a result of this test, my name started getting thrown out. And we started fixing these facilities. And we started in Southern California, then we went to Northern California. And before you knew it, we were traveling all over the country. And I've actually been all over North America. I've done floors in Mexico and Chile and Colombia and Alaska. But anyway, so our business model was that we had a relationship with a vendor that we were pretty loyal to, and they were loyal to us. And so as this business grew, we started to look for new technologies. We started to look for, better ways to do things. And so I was always leaning on these technical people because I didn't have a lot of technical knowledge. I wasn't a chemist. I wasn't a scientist or an engineer. So I became pretty pally with these technical people in this a couple different businesses. And I was like, "Guys, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. We got to try some. Anyway, there was this guy, and Bill McCord, and he was in Europe trying to buy cement to do develop a very unique underwater product. And he called me. I'll never forget. He called me from the airport. He was either in Stuttgart or London or someplace, and he'd had a couple drinks, I could tell. And he says, "Jim, I have found the solution for your trash guys." And I go, "What's it? What is it?" He goes, "Well, I found this microfine cement that it's super unique." And he goes, I just spent a bunch of time with them, and this is it, man. I just know it." And so we spent almost 3 years trying to develop a product because it was super fast cement. and you couldn't mix it in any volume because it went off so fast. So we developed this product, and ironically, now at this point, I've been doing it for years. So I went back to Rainbow. I called the new CEO. I said, Jerry, I got this product I want to try. I want to try it in your facility. And I don't know if it's I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if it's going to work. You know? And he's like, all right, do whatever you want. He goes, what's it going to cost me? It's not going to cost you anything. I just want your honest opinion. So we went over to this facility, and at the time, this little facility in Huntington Beach, the footprint of area versus the volume of trash that went through there was probably the highest in the state of California. So as far as the size of the building, the amount of volume going through there was the ratio was crazy, the volume they were doing. So I thought it was a good place to do a test. Plus, I was doing it for free, so I wanted to go someplace easy, right?
Right down the street, yeah.
Yeah, right down the street. So long story short, we go over and we put this test in, and literally the area we did was about twice the size of this office. So it was like 30 by 30 or whatever. And we did it in the worst area. Put it in the worst area of the building. And we put it down, and then I sort of forgot about it. I didn't forget about it, but I said, listen, hey, call me, when you have an opinion. So about 4 or 5 months went by, and I'll never forget this. It's as vivid in my mind like it happened yesterday. He called me about 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning. He says, Jim, what are you doing? I said, I'm sitting here with my wife, Kathy, having coffee. He knows my wife. He says, well, you need to get your ass over to the transfer station right now. We got a problem. So I take my cup of coffee. In fact, my wife's listening, so she takes my coffee, she pours it into one of those styrofoam cups, and just hands it to me, and I run and put my boots on and jump in my truck. And as I pull into the facility, he's got 2 or 3 of his guys with fire hoses, and they're cleaning the whole floor off. And he's standing with a cup of coffee, same fine china I have, right in the middle of this sample. And so I walk up and I go, Jerry, what's the problem? He goes, what is this shit you put on my floor? I go, well, this is this new material that I told you about like 4 or 5 months ago. And he goes, well, it's created a speed bump, and the guys in the tractors are hitting it, because the concrete's all worn out around it. And I said, well, do you want me to chip it out? He goes, no, I want you to do the whole goddamn building. And so we talked about fishing and boats and motorcycles because this guy and I are pretty good friends. And I went out in my truck and I called Bill McCord. He was in Cleveland. It was now like 10 o'clock, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock his time. And I said, Bill, I got good news for you. And he goes, what's that? I go, well, that shit you and I have been playing with. I said, it works.
It worked.
And so we did that job. And man, these guys, it just spread, because we not only had a system that brought enormous value to that industry, but we had developed a way to do it quickly. And so these guys are doing, their revenue is $100 to $1 million a day.
Jeez.
And for every minute they shut down, it costs money.
Yeah.
And so we had not only developed a way to do it quickly, but the material we had developed lasts significantly longer than any other technology, including concrete. And so that's a component of that's a regional business that's a national business for us. Right. So it got to be where it got so crazy. I got a partner now in New York, and I got one in North Carolina. We share the whole country, But then through the relationships with the trash industry, Caterpillar found us. And I worked with the engineers at Caterpillar and was part of a big initiative they had about 10 years ago called the 5-Star Program. And so I offered to help them, and that could be a whole other deal with you guys. A very smart, very well-run business, Caterpillar. But through that initiative called 5-Star, which I was personally involved with, one of the engineers that was given that task by the board, I got to meet a bunch of their dealers. And then we started doing work for their dealers around the country. Yeah. And so that sort of morphed into an interesting part of our business. But But regionally, that's a national business that we do. We're very active. In fact, that's where I'm going next week. I got 14 appointments in Northern California.
What kind of saturation do you guys have with the trash industry in the U.S.?
I don't know if I don't understand.
Like how many more facilities could? Well, because I feel like you're almost kind of you kind of developed yourself into a situation where you don't have work anymore if you get 100% saturation. That's a
really good question, and ironically, this pandemic has caused us it's created an opportunity for us, for a lot of businesses, right? Because you can't go see people. For example, we're in trade shows and they're all canceled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we go to symposiums and I'm a speaker at some of them. They're all canceled. So we're trying to figure out a way, and we have a core business of repeat clients, but we've lost the opportunity to interface with new deals, right? New opportunities. So we've tried a couple different things, and ironically, they're all working. So we're finding that we've sort of permeated the coast pretty well. Like we've got the East Coast and the West Coast fairly well under control, and then we've got some relationships with some of the bigger companies. But to find the regional and private companies in some of the markets that we normally don't fish in, but we see at these trade shows, we've tried to figure out ways to get in and hit them. And so we were using, for the first time, a company out of New York, a marketing company. In fact, it just hit last week, and we got 7 leads in 2 days. It was unbelievable. So unfortunately, what we do, I have to see these places.
Right.
So I can figure out in 5 minutes, literally, I've been doing it for so long, I can figure out in 5 minutes what they need to do, how we're going to do it, what it's going to cost. If they hired an engineering company, they'd spend 2 or 3 weeks analyzing.
Right.
They'd have 2 or 3 people touch it, and they'd charge them 30 to 50 grand. I can do it in 5 minutes. So the good news is that the clients, most all of the business is referral. And whether it's the owners of the companies, their in-house engineers or outside engineers. So we get a ton of leads from engineers. And so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because once the owners meet us, they don't hire the consultants, because they know because we give them we do both. Yeah, we do it all as part of the package. But so we're like Colorado. We've worked in Colorado, but usually only when somebody calls us. We did a big job in Wyoming last year, and now that particular client's given our name out. We did a big job in Texas we've done a lot of work in Texas, but we did a big job in Texas a couple months ago. And these clients are super influential in their markets, and so a lot of it's referral from the clients. Right. But I don't know if you saw, my son makes these YouTube videos. Listen, I am not a techie. I learned like Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. I learned all about this stuff from my kids. So interestingly, probably a cute story you guys would enjoy, because it sort of falls along the line of this whole technology thing. We did a job about 4 or 5 years ago up in Northern California, and the gal that runs the sanitation district, this is in Humboldt County, she was going to be out of town for like her daughter's wedding or something like that. And so she asked the engineer, she says, hey, can you, when Jim and the guys are here, can you take some video or some pictures? Because, I want to see the process. She was really intrigued.
Right.
I mean, she wanted to which is really exciting. When a client wants to understand the nuts and bolts, I love that.
Yeah. We're the same way.
I love to share it.
Yeah.
But and by the way, I didn't know any of this, okay? So what happens is we do the job, everything's fine, and I get this video sent to me. I'm copied on an email where Jesse Solaro, God bless you, Jesse, he sends this video to Jill, and I see the video. I'm like, it's the job condensed into 2 minutes.
Right.
It's like a 24-hour. Yeah. And so I watch this video, and I'm like,
that's badass.
I had to get up and go get a cup of coffee and sit down and watch it again. And so then I called Jesse, the engineer. I mean, we had sort of this adversarial relationship, because he really works for the client.
Right.
And so I'm trying to tell him how we're going to do things, and he's like, you can't, I'm the engineer. And I'm always trying to, when we bid work, whatever it is we do, we always put a little bit extra money in there to give the client a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And we always give more than they bought.
Right.
It's just what we do. And because you never really know what you got until you get there. I mean, I could look at a job for you today and you can buy from me and then we're going to do the job in a month. A lot can happen in 30 days. And we know that. We've been doing it for a long time. So anyway, I called Jesse and I said, Jesse, my God, this video is unbelievable. And I said, can I use this? Can I share this? He goes, well, it's okay with me, but it's, I'm working for the county. You got to call Jill. She's the boss. And so I'm like, I hang up, I dial Jill's number, I'm like, Jill, Jim Andrews. And she goes, hey, what's going on? I go, did you see the video that Jesse made? She goes, yeah, it's great. And then I just sent it to the board, I mean, the job was done. We've been paid.
Right.
Everybody was happy, I said, can I use this video? And she said, yeah, sure. So I go onto my contacts and I send it to, I swear to God, like 6 engineers. Now, one of them was the head engineer with a big garbage company, and then 2 or 3 other just big firms. And I didn't know anything about YouTube, but my son, one of my kids, says, Jesus, Dad, that video's gotten I sent it to my family. I was proud of it, right? I was like, hey, this is what Dad did.
Yeah.
One of my sons is like, Dad, that video's got 400 hits in 24 hours. And I'm thinking, what does that mean?
Is that good?
Well, you sent it to him, and they sent it to him, and And so, long story short, it actually got to a point where we had clients ask us, "Hey, when you do the job, are you going to make one of those videos for us?" and in fact, we did a job. We did a job in for the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I flew down for the pre-con, and the head guy says to me, he says, hey, it's not in our contract, but those videos you have? I go, yeah. He goes, are you going to make one for us? I go, sure. Would you like one? He goes, yeah. And so we did, and I got 6 calls within about 2 or 3 days of that video going out. It's just amazing the power of technology,
Yeah.
And so that's something we do. Well, we do it for that business, and we've started to do it for some other components of our business. Like regionally, we do a lot of waterproofing, and we do a lot of concrete repair. We do deck coating. We do a lot of different kinds of coatings, parking structures, and we do a lot of food and pharmaceutical work. We're really good at grouters. So when you have a leaky building like a high-rise or elevator pit or electrical vault or whatever, we have a bunch of guys that are just really good. And so, we're contractors, but we're more MacGyvers. We're more like
figure out a way to fix it.
Fixers.
Yeah.
That's really our reputation.
Yeah.
We're fixers.
All flooring, or is there anything else you guys?
We do a wide variety of industrial flooring. My passion is this trash stuff, this heavy duty stuff, but I've got a partner that's probably one of the best waterproofing coating guys. I mean, he started in the field when he was 16 years old, and we've both been doing it for a long time. So he kind of leans into that part of the business, and then we've got a couple young guys that I sort of let people. I'm not one of these top down guys. I'm more of a flat guy. So I kind of let these guys.
You do what you're good at.
You like this? Well, then go for it. Oh, you like that? Go for it.
Yeah.
And then just sort of let it happen, I mean, it's a horrible management style. But you know what? We have figured out how to make it work. I mean, we have a great team of guys. We've got employees. We've got employees that have been with us 36, 35, 34, 30, 20 years. We have a lot of guys been with us, 10, 15 years. And so the skill set we have. The other thing is we have a wide variety of people in the field that have their passions. And so we fuel those. Like we have guys that are super happy to do a certain thing. And so we just let them be the kind of natural leader in that area. And, that's just the way we do it.
It sounds like the trash and that business is kind of affords you those opportunities to let those other guys do what they're passionate
Well,
about.
that part of the business, it's a pretty big part of the business. I would say it probably represents not 50%, but close to 50% of our volume.
Yeah.
It's something that I enjoy because, I'll just be frank with you. Most of my friends are trash guys.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, it's where you've been. It's where you're developing relationships.
I mean, I've had guys call me and go, "Hey, Jimmy, what are you doing this weekend? You want to go fishing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I'll have my jet pick you up at Newport Jet Center at 10:00 Friday."
Okay.
I mean, it's like, and we fly down to Cabo and go fishing and come back, and then I've had trash guys. In fact, I took a client. I have a little trailer at the river, Colorado River. I took a client out there. I don't know, this was 15 years ago. And a couple of weeks goes by and he calls me and goes, "Hey, who picks up the trash out there?" I go, "Where?" I go, "You do." He goes, No, not at home, at your place at the river." And I said, "I don't know, I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, I just bought the house 5 doors down from you." I go, "You what?" He says, "Yeah, when you and Kathy were making breakfast, I took a cup of coffee and walked down. I started talking to one of your neighbors and I bought his house." And so it was like, all right, well, but yeah, when you're in a business for as long as I've been, and I love what I do. I love my clients. I love my employees and the people I work with. That kind of becomes your social network.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So it's I'm one of the lucky ones. I know guys hate to get up and go to work. And should I? My wife's like, "You're not going to the office this weekend, are you?" I'm like, "Well, if we're not going anywhere, yeah." But, I usually once or twice a month I'm out of town on one of these jobs. I pretty much go on as many of the tipping floor jobs as I can because usually the owners are there or the managers or their engineers. Somebody of pretty high influence is there.
Right.
And quite frankly, one good job brings you two more, and that's just
Yep.
And then I like to be with the guys. I mean, it's like we sort of have a deal, no drinking until the job's done. So like I'll take them all out to dinner, the first night because these are hard jobs. We'll work for 24 hours straight, and usually reward them with a night on the town when we're done.
Yeah.
It's because during the week, like when I'm at the office, I don't get to see any of them. They're in they're in 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
They're gone. And, they're back late at night, but on these jobs, we're all together. We're staying in the same hotels. We travel together. Like we did a job in Portland a couple of weeks ago, or 6 weeks ago, right when this pandemic hit. We had a big contract with the city of Portland, and I called the client and said, "Listen, are you guys? What should we do?
Yeah.
What should we do?"
Yeah.
In fact, we were doing a job in San Francisco the day. The governor shut the state down on I think it was a Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah.
And I was already up there because I was seeing some clients. In fact, I had dinner with a client Wednesday night. And so I called the client we were working for. And now our equipment hadn't gotten to the job yet, but we had, 20 truckloads of material already delivered. And I said, "Hey, Paul, I'm here. Are we going to be able to do the job this weekend?" He goes, "Well, yeah, man. I mean, I need my floor fixed, dude." and he said, and he goes, "I'm looking at the material. The material was out in the yard." And I said, "Well, my semi's coming, and the guys are leaving tomorrow, and I just wanted to know, So then it was interesting. I called my wife and I said, "Listen, it's a go, because we were all on the phone. We were like, "Are we shutting down, or what are we doing?" Yeah. So I called my wife, and she reconfirmed a bunch of stuff. Called Dustin, who pretty much runs all these jobs. I said, "Dustin, it's a go, man." And I said, "Now call everybody. Make sure everybody knows it's a go." And so we had to send a letter. We use, we're very loyal to our vendors. So in that area, we use one ready-mix company, and they travel for us. And I said, "Call Preston and make sure the trucks are going to be here, because we have to mix in ready-mix trucks."
Right.
And so he calls back and says, "We need a letter to cross the bridge, to come over the Bay Bridge. We need a letter," because they had told all these commercial truckers and businesses, unless you're essential, you can't travel. So we had to get this letter, send it to them. They, Anyhow, long story short, we did the job. It was great, but we drove there. So we drive to the Bay Area. We drive to like Vegas, Phoenix, everywhere else we fly. I mean, our equipment goes in semis and stuff. So a couple of weeks later, we're in Portland, and we flew. And that was interesting. I took like 20 guys, right? We get to LAX, and you guys have flown out of LAX.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine walking from the front door to the gate, and not one thing is open, and there's not one body.
Yeah.
So weird.
It was like eerie, you know? And then we get on the airplane, and it wasn't a big plane. It was maybe it was a 37. I can't remember, but there was us. There was a family from like Sweden or Denmark, you know, mom and a dad and a little girl, because I talked to the dad, and like 2 other people, and the rest of the airplane was empty. And they had us all sitting like, you know,
spread out,
yeah, it was weird. And then when we went to Texas, it was the same thing. We flew from LA into Austin, and it was just weird, you know. And
apocalyptic almost.
That's exactly what it was. Apocalyptic. These airports are empty, and I'm telling you, when we checked into one hotel, when we were in San Francisco, we checked into this hotel. And they were so glad we were there.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And so when the manager of this hotel figured out who I was, you know, because I have 2 business cards, one that has a title, one that doesn't. Usually when I'm traveling, I use the one that doesn't have a title, so nobody knows I'm the owner or the president. So she had got this email, because my wife handles all logistics for travel and everything, and she got an email from Kathy, my wife, and so she called me. I was in my room, and I always get there early just to make sure the client is good and everything's good. So she finds me. She asked me to come to the front desk. I said, "Is there a problem?" And she says, "No, there's no problem. Just I want to talk to you." So I go down to the front desk, and I think we had all in like 22 guys there. And we usually put 2 guys in a room. And she said, "Listen, you got like, you know, 12 rooms or whatever it was." I said, "Yeah." She said, "You're the only ones in the hotel, you and these 2 guys from FEMA. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody their own room. I'm going to charge you the same. But we're not doing any housekeeping."
Right.
We were there for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I said, "It doesn't matter. These guys don't care." And then the other thing was, well, the restaurants were closed. So I told the client, and this is a repeat client. We've been working in this facility for 30 years. I said, "Hey, Paul, you know, I got to feed these guys. You got
Taco trucks.
Yeah, right. So this is interesting." So he goes, "Hey, my wife's friend has a Mexican restaurant. They do catering, and we use them for safety. This is a big garbage company, so they got like 300-400 guys, right?" So I said, "Well, see if he'll come in and we can get him to come cater while we're working." So he calls me back. He goes, "Yeah, no problem." Anyway, this guy came and he set up the most beautiful taco, burritos, everything, and had horchata and all this stuff, and the salsa bar. I mean, it was like nicer than a nice Mexican. Oh my God! And so I told the client, I made a deal with this guy to bring extra, because I didn't know who was going to be there from the facility. So I said, "Just bring it out." He goes, "How many guys you got?" I said, 25, but figure 50, you know. Anyway, it was the best time, and the guys were all like, "Man, this is awesome!" You know? And towards the end of the day, the dad, it was the dad and his son and his cousin or nephew, whatever, the guys that were doing the food. He was asking the guys, "Hey, do you want me to make you a burrito to take back to the hotel?"
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah."
Sure do.
So I go over there one time just to kind of, what I do in these jobs, I rove around just to make sure everything's safe, really, because when we're there, it's a logistical nightmare. But I see all these tinfoil wrapped up. I go, "What are those for?" He goes, "Well, I made burritos for all the guys to take back to the room, because who's going to buy them? Who's going to feed them dinner today?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, good idea." But it's been interesting working this pandemic. I'm not going to lie to you, man. We kind of panicked. We were there for a while. I mean,
I feel like most people did, especially those first 2 weeks.
Well,
just kind of went, "Ooh."
This group I'm in, my partner in New York, and he runs 150 guys. He was shut down for 45 days because he had 3 guys. They had no symptoms, but they tested positive. Yeah, they were asymptomatic. So he was shut down. Buddy in Salt Lake, he got hit hard. My buddy and partner in North Carolina, he got hit pretty good. And then our guy in Minneapolis, I mean, he had some massive jobs with some big food companies, and everything got shut down. Now, we were lucky, man. Our residential business got impacted a little bit, but pretty much our commercial industrial business, because we got on the phone. We're a super collaborative and transparent company with our clients. They know we're a totally open book.
Right.
So we're calling them and we're like, hey, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to handle this? Or what,
Just case by case.
And quite frankly, that helped us because they're like, oh, you guys, can you do this? Because what happened was,
rather than just shutting down and thinking,
we have some fairly large property management and owners in LA that own lots of high rises and buildings, and parking garages, and they're like, whoa, we're shut down. Can you come do this? So what happened was our business throttled.
Yeah.
And now we're trying to hire guys. I bought 2 trucks last week because what we did was we panicked and we went and asked for work.
Got too much.
And now the work's coming in. So I mean, it's like, but the other side of the coin is I know some guys that they're on the phone, they're on the internet, they're watching TV, and all that negative energy has just permeated their psyche and it's hurting them.
Yeah.
And I've told a bunch of young guys that I kind of mentor. I'm like, listen, stay off the news, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch. I'm a weather junkie because of the business I'm in. I mean, I got like 6 weather sources because I'm always. In fact, my partner Sean and I were always joking like, well, this weather guy screwed up this week. Oh, he got it right. Because we both subscribe to all these weather things. Because in our business, like rain's the enemy.
Right.
And temperature. But anyway, it's been. I think you're going to see a big cleansing. I think you're going to see, across the board. I think you're going to see a lot of guys not survive this.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, there's going to be, and I think a lot of it, like to your point, is the mentality more than the actual business side.
You cannot lean back in the saddle when the shit's hitting the fan.
Right. Yeah.
You got to be leaning into it.
Yep.
And the guys, these companies that are managing by wire and they're not in touch with their customers and their employees and their vendors. Yep. I mean, we have one of our gals, Sarah, who's a sweetheart. She's in daily contact with our vendors. Because we had a lot of our vendors shut down.
I was going to say, even if you wanted to work, I feel like you probably had issues with materials and everything else.
Materials, equipment. Yeah. We had jobs where we needed parts for. We have a lot of very specialized equipment, and we're like, hey, we need this. Oh, we're shut down. Well, shit, we need this. We need these parts.
Yeah.
And in fact, it got to a point where we're like, we don't care what it costs. Just get it.
I want to try to
get it to us somehow, And that's the other thing, freight.
Yeah.
We were doing a job, I can't remember where it was, and we had a truckload of epoxy get held up because it wasn't food and it wasn't pharmaceuticals. It was considered non-essential. Well, we had the job scheduled. It was a.
Well, it's like Amazon. They did the same thing, right? I mean, if it wasn't food or pharmaceuticals or anything, what they deemed essential, you got kicked back. And
so we called this particular vendor, and they figured out how to do it. They got another truck, and they went to like Salt Lake City to some distribution center and got the shit in another truck. And they put a team in the truck and drove all night, to get it to where we needed it. And there was a little things like that. We got through it, but what we've learned is we've learned to stay much more communicative with these essential things that we took for granted. These logistical
things, yeah.
And the vendors, some of these bigger companies overreacted. I mean, there's still some companies we do business with. All their employees are in travel restrictions. They can't travel.
Yeah.
I think the other interesting thing is that I think a lot of these people that went to this work at home thing
don't want to come back.
Well, I think they figured out that there's a lot of people that they don't need.
Yeah.
And
back to the cleansing.
One of my garbage clients has a son or a daughter that's pretty big. I think it was Facebook or Twitter, one of those companies up in the Bay Area. He told me, oh yeah, they're going to lay off like 4,000 people.
Jeez.
Because they figured out hey man, we sent all these people home.
And we've been able to get
the job done, and Susie's at the park with her kids, and Johnny's at the beach with his kids. But Mike, he's working his ass off. So it's going to be interesting to see what the consequences are of that. But
that in commercial real estate too.
Yeah.
People realize they don't need their people. So
You know, it's interesting. We have a client. It's interesting you say that. We actually have a lot of big real estate clients. We have one that I'm super close to, and we talk a lot. So I'm on the phone with this guy. He just got off a conference call with like 20 big investors. I mean, these are global real estate, like REITs and big investors. And one guy goes, "Hey, does anybody have so and so as a tenant?" And a couple guys are like, "Yeah, they're in 5 of my shopping centers." Another guy goes, "Yeah, I got 2 of them." And it was a big national restaurant chain. And they'd send out a letter. They have like 2,000 locations. They sent out a letter to every one of their landlords. "We won't be paying our rent for the next 3 to 4 months."
just
like
that. Matter of fact,
like we're not paying our rent. And like big companies, like I heard the Irvine company was super gracious to their commercial, industrial, and also their residential tenants. There's been a lot of landlords that have been enormously gracious, but the ones that are highly leveraged, and they got these massive, payments to make every month. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple clients that are pretty wealthy guys, and they're looking for these buildings. They're looking for these assets where people are in trouble, and they just buy them.
Go in and buy them.
They just go and buy them.
Up.
Yeah. But
so what's the future look like for you guys?
Anything
else you're trying to get into?
The future looks pretty good, actually. I mean, we've got some niches that we really like, and we're focused on them, so they're producing. We're one of the big challenges we're doing right now is trying to cross train. I'm trying to reproduce myself, and we're trying to reproduce some of the older guys in the company to teach younger guys, and because you can't hire people to do what we do. Yeah. They have to learn. It's not. You're not going
to find anybody with the experience.
No. So, and I learned a long time ago. I don't steal people from competitors. I don't like it done to me, so I don't do it to them. So usually what we do is we hire attitude and integrity, and then we train them.
Yeah.
And then we'll hire a guy, and the first thing we'll do is put him with one of the older guys. I want to know if they're thieves. So we try to set them up, see if they're thieves or not, or they lie on their time cards or whatever.
Good integrity test too.
Yeah. So then we train them. If they stick, we train them. But the future looks pretty good. I mean, we focus on owners. We're a contractor. We bid work. But the best scenario for us is to work directly for an owner, because then you can create a value. And what we do is, like with a lot of our clients, we give them options. Like like you're Disney, right? So we're going to give you 3 prices. Here's the cheap price, here's the medium price, and here's the good price. We give a lot of our clients options. And ironically, the owners, the people that can keep these assets, they always pick the best one.
Right.
You know. Now the flippers, we don't want to work for them.
Yeah.
We just want to sell it. And by the way, a large part of our work is fixing other people's work that did that. I mean, there's a lot of shady contractors out there.
And if you're working for owners, like you said, you've usually they're going to pick the better quality and the better work.
They're going to keep the building.
Well, and there's a referral network built in there too with those higher ups that have a little more power than working for a general contractor who doesn't care if you
general contractors
do the next job or not.
If they're on the job, they're there because they were the low bidder.
Right.
And when they realized they were the low bidder, now they're trying to figure out how they're going to make margin. So how they make margin, they start screwing around with the subs. Yeah. Who does that affect? It affects the guy that owns the building. Yep. So I do a fair amount of forensic expert witness work. I've been doing it for over 30 years. I turn down a couple cases a month, really good ones usually. And it's usually contractor cheated, owner, has problems, and the lawyers get involved, the insurance companies get involved, and I do a lot of coming in and finding out what the truth is, and then educating the lawyers and the insurance companies on how to mitigate.
Just based on the work that was done.
Yeah.
So you're an expert witness on the flooring piece or whatever.
Well, flooring and concrete waterproofing, and I've worked on some pretty famous cases. I can't talk about them, but
obviously
one of them was on 60 Minutes. So I don't know if you guys saw that one. But I've worked on some really interesting stuff with some really, really talented lawyers. I mean, I've had some lawyers say, okay, you got to explain this to me because I got to go into court. You know, and the lawyers.
Jim, what size suit do you wear? You're gonna sit second chair.
I've been in some pretty powerful mediations. It's. I'll be honest with you, it's not something I'm super comfortable with. But I've settled some pretty big lawsuits because I get eye to eye with the mediator or the judge, and I just don't bullshit them. I just tell them.
Yeah.
And judges and mediators are not stupid. They know that these lawyers are all salesmen and they're trying to sell whatever file they got on the desk. And I just tell the truth. In fact, one of the first things in an expert witness scenario I establish with a lawyer is if they're going to ask me to lie or distort the truth, I won't work for them. Because it's not as you guys probably know from your background, it's the legal system in this country is not as rosy as everybody thinks.
Well, especially in California.
Yeah. But no, the future looks pretty good. We're this collaborative group that we have, NACT. There's some pretty entrepreneurial guys in that group, and so there's some pretty cool stuff coming that we're bringing to pretty much directly to our client base, and I'm pretty excited about a system that we developed. It took us about 5 years, and I actually got a patent on it, which the lawyers are like, you're never going to get this patent. So I fired that lawyer and went to another lawyer and said, hey, can we patent this? And anyway, this gal, cocky little lawyer from Boston, she's like, I think we can do this, Anyway, we've got a patent on a product that is being tested right now by a lot of big companies and a lot of big owners on how to fix cracks and joints in concrete floors. It's super exciting because everywhere we did about 15 or 20 samples, and everywhere we've done it, it's performing well and it saves these people a lot of time and money and a lot of risk. And so we've got it in airports, we've got it in garbage facilities, industrial facilities. We're showing it to like Home Depot, Amazon, Lowe's, and some of the big box guys. And we're testing it for FOD. We got it on a couple airports for FOD repair, and Caterpillar's looking at it. And so I'm trying to decide right now, like, do I license it or sell it, because it's such a good idea. I can't give it the real attention or the resource. So I'm trying to figure out how to get it out there. But that's a super exciting project that we're working on.
Is it easy enough to use to be direct to consumer, to be sold in small quantities?
Not probably a homeowner, but we have a client that owns a lot of FBOs. He's probably the largest facilitator for private jet aircraft in Southern California. He's got like 6 or 8 FBOs, and we did a sample at one of his places, and we are going to experiment with him training a couple guys because he's got these problems are everywhere. People don't realize, like, if you spend a little bit of time taking care of concrete, it'll last forever, right? But if you let it go to the point where it's you can't fix it, now you got to rip it out and start over. Yeah. Well, you start looking at concrete, ripping it out and starting over. They're doing 52 bridges right now on the 405 freeway between South Orange County and LA County. Jeez. Do you 52? Know what 52 bridges? Do you know what a pain in the ass it is for the community to deal with those bridges and when they drop them?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So warehouses, parking structures, airports, schools, hospitals, you don't realize
all
it.
The infrastructure,
people are walking on concrete every day. And the risk associated with not taking care of it, it's irresponsible for building owners to not. And so we're trying to bring value and solutions to owners so it's easier for them and more cost effective to take care of these assets, And that's a pretty exciting project. The NACT group, I would say probably some of the really exciting stuff that's happening is this sort of collaboration with this national organization, because we have different guys around the country that have relationships with big companies regionally that we're starting to leverage to national.
Yeah.
So, like our guy in New York, he's got a couple big food and pharmaceutical companies, and they're like, oh, you got a guy in LA, And our guy in Minneapolis, he does a bunch of work for a huge hedge fund company that owns a lot of hotels and office buildings. And so, like, they called him and said, hey, we got this parking structure in Long Beach that's screwed up. And he goes, oh, well, I got a guy there. So we just did it was $500,000 job. But these sort of collaborative, transparent working relationships where, and the other thing with that organization, we've got we've got sort of a model where we collaborate with all the stakeholders. So the raw material suppliers, the material producers, the architects, the engineers, and the owners. And we're very transparent, collaborative with the entire chain of participants in the deal. So that the owner, like if you own a bunch of food processing facilities or pharmaceutical plants or parking garages, and you want to understand exactly why you should do what we're telling you should do, we bring in not only the raw material suppliers, but the material suppliers.
Hear from everybody.
We bring everybody in, and there's this whole collaboration, and it's been a hard push, but we're finally figuring it out, and a lot of really exciting stuff's coming from that. But our regional business, it's exciting. I mean, we'll do a couple $1,000 repair at some old guy's house, or we'll do $1.5 million repair on a big building, and it's like it's all fun, but it's all exciting. Yeah. The cool thing is when you help somebody fix something, and they had done something somewhere else before, and it was painful.
Yeah,
and so we're doing it, and we make it. We make it easy, and the biggest thing is just the transparency and just being honest with people.
Yeah,
because a lot of people in the contracting world are,
No, they're all good, honest people. What are you talking about? Yeah, good, honest, hardworking people.
Yeah, the other thing that I did, I think that was it wasn't because I was smart. It was because I was naive. I learned really young. Like we have a good banker. We have a good lawyer. We have actually several good lawyers. We have a good insurance guy, and we have a good CPA firm. So, and if you're in a small business like we are, you really need good people around you to
good partners.
Good partners, and then like the law firm we have is over 30 years. The guy that handles all of our insurance over 30 years, and those relationships have been so valuable to me and to our company and the other companies we have that it's just it's I don't know how these people do it without those people around them.
Yeah, we see that. I mean, obviously we're the insurance side, so we see it all the time, right? I mean, we're writing new business, somebody's leaving somebody else, but then they'll turn around and it doesn't matter how good of a job you do for them because they're turning around and shopping against you the next year. And so it's, I mean, obviously you want to build that. There's going to be that forever, no matter what, but the good clients are the ones that are, the ones that are treating you like a part of their team.
Oh, yeah. I have a gal she's been with me for, 25 years, and she handles a lot of it. And I'll ask her like, well, gosh, Sue, should we do this or should we do that? And then she'll tell me, well, this is what he did for us last year, or this is what she did for us last year. And I like stuff you don't realize that these people,
wasn't just a transaction.
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, I mean, the hard part is when you travel, when you start to leave California, people think it's easy. I'm licensed in 15 states. I had to sit and take the test.
Yeah. Yep.
And some of these you can't do by proctor. I mean, I had to fly to Hawaii. I got a job with a pretty wealthy guy in L.A. I did a bunch of work for him in L.A., and he called me up and he says, hey, I just bought a hotel in Honolulu. And I said, great. I want you to go over and do this, and that. And I said, well, I don't have a license there. And he said, well, let me call you right back. And he called me back a half an hour later. He says, you take the test next Monday.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, how'd you do that? Well, this guy knows the governor and the mayor. And so anyway, I did. I flew to Honolulu on Saturday, and Monday morning went in and took the test. And, we were shipping guys and equipment, material over there a week later. I mean, I got the test, got a license that day. I mean, I got a number assigned to me. I didn't get all the paperwork done, but I was able to, pull it off. And then I'll never forget, I had to, I can't remember what state it was. My wife's like, I thought I was going to be able to do it through Proctor. And she's like, no, you got to go there. And so I flew in and it was snowing and I was like, oh, this is horrible. Is this really worth it? You know? But then you got to keep all those licenses up, and then you got to have insurance and legal and comp, and I mean, you guys know what it's like. And so it's because we do everything by the book. I mean, we don't. You know, as driving up here, I got a call from a guy. He's got a job at one of the schools for LAUSD, and he's like, man, your price. And I said, yeah, well, it's prevailing wage, and it's this, and it's that. And he said, well, we're not going to check. And I said, I don't care what you're going to do. This is what the law says. This is how we operate, you know. And I said, you can get somebody else to do it. I don't care, you know. And he's like, no, I'll sign your proposal, you know. But I mean, you know, you guys are in the insurance business. You know, there's a lot of guys out there that it's not sustainable. If you don't play by the rules, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, you might survive in the short term and be okay, but long term,
they have these hotels with bars on them for the people.
They feed you though, right? They feed you.
Yeah. No, I mean, over the years, I'll tell some of my younger guys, I'm like, listen, you're not going to beat this guy, so just let it go.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And then, 6 months, a year later, they'll walk in and go, hey, remember that deal? Well, that guy just lost his contractor's license. You know, or we got thrown off this job.
We're going in to fix it.
We're going to go fix it. Yeah. For about 4 or 5 years, I had a relationship with this insurance company that all they did was bond big construction jobs. Yeah. And so I fixed Men's Central Jail downtown LA for the bonding company. And went well. We saved. Luckily, the guy whose bond it was, we saved him millions of dollars. And so this guy walked into my office one day. Well, he was the guy that handled all these claims for this big insurance company that issued all these bonds. And he goes, "Hey, we got a couple more jobs we'd like you to look at, you know." So we did a women's prison out in Riverside. Same problem. We had to grout all these cells, but. And then we did a couple other jobs for him, and then he kind of went away, and it was great working for insurance companies. Yeah, because they
got the money.
Well, you sent them a bill, they actually pay you. Yeah, you know. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing about the trash business I like. We get paid. Literally, we have clients. We did a job for a client, and our equipment wasn't back in the yard yet, and they'd already paid us. Where some industries. Yeah. 60, 90,
30, 60, 90
120 days.
The thing I hear, one of the things we hear the most is, what's the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome? It's chasing the cash.
Yeah. And we've learned, listen, I've been doing this for almost 40 years. We've learned that if you got to chase paper or money, like a big thing with us, a lot of things we do are emergency repairs or quick turnaround repairs. Right. And we've learned to not do things without paperwork. So, we've learned that if they're slow with the paperwork, the money's slow. Yep. And so it's a habit. We have fired a lot of clients. Yeah. Like we just the gals. I got 2 or 3 gals who've been with me. One of them's my wife. And if people are hard to do business with and they don't pay their bill, we don't need them. Yeah. There's plenty of good people out there that respect us and want good work done. But these are some interesting times, man. I'll tell you what, I bought a couple trucks in the last week or so, and there's some deals out there.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
And we're looking at some equipment because there's we're blessed. We're in a pretty good position financially. We're not leveraged at all, and so we've been able to make some pretty good deals on some stuff. I mean, I bought a dump trailer, a couple weeks ago, and the guy, I was like, you got to ask, right? I'm like, is this the best you can do? And I mean, he came off so fast. I thought, geez, I should have grounded him a little bit. In fact, I told Wally, I said, hey, go out there next week. Let's buy a couple more trailers.
See if we can get them all a little bit lower.
Well, because what's going to happen is things are going to recover.
Oh yeah.
And then it's going to be back to normal. Yeah.
Yep.
But
I've definitely looked at vehicles for my wife because her lease is coming up. I mean, they're practically giving cars away. Yeah. I bought a safe that I've been looking at for a long time because it was like 30% off and no interest for 18 months or something stupid. Yeah. Like, sure, give me that. And I feel like we bought more in the last 3 months.
Have you loaded up on ammo?
Yep.
So
we did before it went up.
Yes, it was interesting. I was watching.
Now everything's up about 25-30%.
We got to be careful because this is all being recorded. But let's just say I know a lot of people that have guns, and it's amazing how when all this stuff happened, people you could not buy a shotgun in the state of California. Yep. And I'm thinking, in fact, I was talking to a friend of mine over the 4th of July. I'm like, the people that are scurrying to buy firearms right now shouldn't be the ones that own firearms. Right. You know what I mean? It's like most of the guys and gals
that you want to own firearms already have them.
I know a lot of women that carry.
Yeah.
And it's people that are scurrying right now probably shouldn't be the ones that own them.
Yeah.
But
Well, very cool, man. Well, we appreciate the time. We'll let you run and get out of here. I know you got lots going on, so thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out. Let the people know how to find you. I know you're not great at the social media.
I'm not a super social media guy, but AmericanRestore.com, tippingfloors.com. That's our heavy flooring site, or NACTUSA.com or .org. That's our collaborative group. And then
NACT.org.
That's there's actually there's a couple podcasts out there on that. He was interviewed. One of the board members was interviewed by one of the online business magazines, and it was pretty interesting. But I'm pretty easy to find.
Very cool. We'll link all that stuff. We'll keep in touch. And
thanks for having me, guys.
No, you stay safe out there. And appreciate you coming in, man.
All right, man.
Thanks, sir.
See ya. Be safe.
Yeah, you too, Jim.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.